Hi, conductor fans. We just want to give a heads up that this episode contains some explicit verbiage. If you have young listeners around, put in some headphones. Thank you. Hi, and welcome to Conductor, where we are two sisters on a mission to amplify women's voices on the podium.
Join us as we interview leaders in the field of choral music, share resources, and build a community for current and future teacher conductors, all while exploring the gender divide. I'm Kira Starr.
And I'm McKenna Stenson. And we are Conductor.
Hey, Conductor listeners. Welcome to Conductor K-12 edition. Conductor K-12 is a new initiative created to feature K-12 choral music educators. K-12 educators are the foundation of choral music, and we want to provide a platform for their voices. We are so excited to hear from some of the wonderful educators that you nominated.
Today, we are thrilled to have Rachel Massey on the podcast with us. Rachel, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself? So where you are from, what you teach, and how many years you have been teaching?
So I'm actually originally from Plymouth, England. I moved to America when I was 12. And so I've been in Texas since then. Right now I teach high school. Over the course of the 16 years I've been teaching, I started off teaching 5th through 12th grade. And then, but most of my career has been spent in the high school area. Every single year I have taught 9th graders. So that's a special treat.
We love it. That is amazing. And so excited to hear from such a veteran teacher, 16 years, you go, girl. So we're going to dive into our questions today. First, a question I think we all are hoping to get some insight on, which is how do you find work-life balance?
Well, I will preface this by saying this is my answer today on January, 5th, 2024, right? Because it could change. It has changed over the time that I've been teaching. I think that, first of all, I think the most important thing is that you are the only person that really can decide what that has to look like for you and for your people. Like you and your family, or your not family, or your own self and your body, or you, and also you and your program and your students. Whether or not you feel that way, you're the authority on both of those things, right? And so I think it's really important that you try to keep that in mind. It's difficult to keep that in mind because I think we see lots of different examples of what that's supposed to look like for us. I have definitely, over the course of my career, spent more of it trying to make that look like somebody else's version than my own. But in the last 6 years, I am grateful to have been forced to change my perspective of that because I have 2 small humans that I love and that I get to raise. And so suddenly for me, whenever I had my daughters to take care of, it made me feel more convicted to set boundaries and make sure that I was doing the right thing for me and for them so that I could be the best person for everybody that was involved. Is that fair? And so I think it changes, obviously, depending on who it is that you're working with inside of school and outside of school. That's going to change what that's going to look like for you. And I think that daily it can change. I think that depending on what time of the year it is, it changes. The age of the kids or whomever it is that you're dealing with outside of school obviously makes a difference. I think that that you definitely want to make sure that what you're doing outside of school, is enhancing your life in some way. But I think that anything that I do outside of school that makes me a better human makes me a better teacher for my students, right? So at one point in time when I was younger, I did triathlon and marathons, and my students were like, yes, you go. And, I had mindset to be able to talk about endurance and perseverance. And that would be the metaphor that I would use in my class all the time. Well, when you're running this, I think that there was a time that I was able to do more musical theater performances. And sometimes that means that you have to stay up really late, or you have to like take a day off before you open a show. And I talked to my principal about it at the time, because some other very well-meaning choir director told me that, that I shouldn't be doing that. And my principal said, girl, you can go to Broadway every night if you want to, just make sure you show up and do your job well. So like, thank you. Right. And then I think that the most important shift for me, obviously, the opportunity to be a mom, I think, has made me a better teacher. And I think what that looks like for me right now is, sometimes my daughters get to be a part of what I'm doing in the classroom, like not at school, but, like with my people, right? I get to watch my students like hang out with Leah. She wants to be at musical rehearsal with me. I did a winter concert, and we needed a little bit of comedic relief. We needed some ballerinas on the stage. And my freshmen were like, well, you have daughters, right? Oh, yes. You better believe that those two like sugar plum fairied themselves onto the stage. It was adorable. I, chased them off, and we had a great time. But I think that it's give and take, right? I kind of thought about it earlier, like, y'all, do you both hike? You know how if you're on a trail or something, they have like sometimes you'll have to do like a river crossing. And so sometimes there's like a bridge, and that's great. And sometimes there's a log. And it's really not as easy to navigate the crossing, when it looks like that. And of course, like the weather changes your ability to make that shift, right? If the log is wet, you may slip and fall on your backside. Like you may fall in the river. But if it's a sunny day, you may get across just fine, right? And I feel like when we're doing this shift back and forth all the time, like it doesn't always look the same. All of the conditions make a difference to how we're going to be able to make that shift from one side to the other and back, on a daily basis. I just think that if we can give ourselves enough grace to be present for people on both sides, and be able to recognize that it's important for my students to see me prioritize my children, and it's important for my children to see me be a badass mom, choir teacher lady,
Yay, we got an explicit warning. I'm so happy. I've been waiting for I've been waiting for a K-12 explicit moment. But Rachel, all the things that you just said are so important. And I love the description of how in different seasons these priorities can shift, which I think is something that we don't talk about enough in our field, how every season is not going to look the same. And I think that the way you brought it back to the hike analogy of like, it just sort of depends on the conditions. And that's just reality and something we all really, I think, can take to heart as we enter into 2024 and this new season, that we all kind of get to choose and reevaluate those things.
And if I could add, I think also it was like balance according to whom, like, because sometimes we allow the wrong people or perception, or our perception of someone's perception, to decide, right, what the balance should look like. And then there's also this other part of like, time does not necessarily equate to quality. I could spend a whole lot of time with people, but that doesn't mean that the quality of the connection is good. If you have seen anything about me, I absolutely adore my children. I love them so much. But I'm a better mom to them if I'm doing my job that I love so much. I mean, it's such a privilege to be able to like walk with high school students and like build a community with them and make music with them and create like, and my daughters see that and they want to be a part of it because they see how much I love it, but because I am filled in that way in my job, it makes me a better mom to them, and vice versa, because I am able to go on a walk with them or to whatever it is, right? But if I'm intentional about the quality of the connection that I'm making in both of those places, then the amount of time doesn't necessarily have to be prescribed, right?
Absolutely. I love how you keep bringing this answer back to being introspective and really trying to think about what the best thing is for you to be able to serve all of these different populations at the same time. And I think it was a super important and helpful reminder to me and probably many of your listeners out there that we grow and change. And so that's one of the most amazing things as human beings, is that we have the flexibility and the ability to be the triathlete and be the person who goes on walks, and that is enough. And we have the ability to be flexible in order to meet the needs of not only the people around us that we are serving, especially as teachers and as nurturers, but also just as people. So I love everything that you just shared, Rachel, and it was so beautiful. And I can't wait to hear your answers to the next questions, which brings us to: what are some guiding principles related to your approach to programming?
This has been something that I have not been super confident about over the course of my career, but in the last 6 years, I felt more like this is something that I can have a conversation about. So this is like the metaphor that it makes me think of. So say McKenna has this like beautiful royal blue blazer, which I know she does. And so we are all like, yes, girl, right? And so I asked to borrow said blazer, and she's a nice person. She probably lets me borrow it. But if you haven't seen,
I do.
I think that if you haven't seen McKenna and I stand next to each other, she's fairly petite compared to me. I'm 5'9", and that's without any shoes on, and she's not. And so if I put her blazer on, there's a really good chance I won't be able to move my arms. And that doesn't change whether or not it's a good blazer. It's a great blazer. But I got to buy my own that fits me, right? And so, the same thing, like, and Kira might be like the same, able to wear the same size, but like she needs to wear green or orange or a turtleneck. I don't know, But I think that we approach like our programs in a way like we all have to wear McKenna's blazer, because it's like she's a great teacher. I should do exactly what she does, and it's like if I try that on, it might not fit, and so I can look at what she's doing and recognize like, wow, that is an amazing choir, and that is amazing, I love that. And then I could take the things and then I could be like, well, this will work for me, but this will not. And not just me, but me and my people, right? And so I think there's this idea of course, there are pedagogical considerations. Tessitura, if you're teaching middle school, you don't want to have like your treble singers like hanging around a C, but your middle C. Like they will not sound good. That they have a hard time phonating there.
Right.
You do not want your high school basses to be like hanging out on the top of the staff. They will hate you, and they won't enjoy singing, right? But then you also may just randomly have like a middle school treble singer who can just like hang out below the staff, and that's different, or you may have, we are dealing with humans on a daily basis. So like there are things that we know are textbook, like this is what you should do. And then it's like, except now, or except this. And so I think that you have to make sure that you are meeting the needs of the human beings that are in front of you. And you have to make sure that you're doing something that is authentic to you. Because I'm going to be a better teacher for the people in front of me whenever I have a connection as well. And so if I spend the time to make sure of all of those things, then for me, the question is, what is the journey that we are going to take together with this music? With music as the avenue, like, what are we going to learn together? And somebody else may have a different idea about that, like a turtleneck. It's totally fine. But I think that we need to realize that our colleagues may do a thing that works for them, whether it's lit selection, whether it's recruiting, whether it's, classroom management style, all of those kinds of things. We can look at the people around us and be like, okay, that's a good idea. Let me try it. It does not fit me. And that doesn't mean I'm bad, and it doesn't mean the idea is bad. It just means I need to buy myself my own blazer. Right.
You talk about this in like such a great way, because it's something A, we can all connect with, and B, I think the quote that comes to mind is that comparison is the thief of joy. And we live in a field that is especially perpetuated by so many things that are happening on social media, where we look around and we think that all of a sudden we have to be just like everybody else. And the reality is that that's not real. And perception is not reality. And so I think that all the things that you just offered give us so much to think about. And even if you are in the midst of an academic year, you can still reconsider and start those small shifts to think, am I doing this for me? And like, is this really true to myself? And asking those hard questions. I know that you just have so much to share. And I think that this question will segue really well into the last question for our interview, which is, what is one piece of advice you have for teachers in their first year in the classroom?
So I think that, part of it is in the same vein, right? So it's like, as you're making all of these decisions, take all of the things that you have learned in your undergrad or whatever, wherever you are in your academic pursuit. And then also make sure that what you're doing is something that you're going to be hopeful and motivated and joyful about, because our students know, like it's really, if we are being authentic, if we care about what we're doing, they can tell. If we're trying to be somebody else, they can tell that too. I thought about this. I went on a guided hike the other day, and I haven't done that before, but it was a longer hike than my family could probably do, and so I decided to just sign up. Well, when I went on the hike, I knew that meant that I was not in control of some of the things that were happening. I couldn't go necessarily the same speed. I may have been too fast. I may have been too slow, right? And I was going to meet other people, right? Well, I went on this hike with this guy named Tom, and he was very experienced in the Rocky Mountain area. As we were hiking, he took us on a winter trail, which is not marked on any of the maps, right? So because I chose to go with him, I got to do something completely different than what I thought I was going to be doing. But also, it was maybe a little slower than I could hike. I had to like talk to these other people, or I got to talk to these other people, right? I got to do it with others instead of by myself. Tom had lots of things to teach me about, like the little marks in the snow of the animals and the tree life and the geology and all of those things, right? He also at one point in time like stood in the wrong spot in the snow and fell on me, and I had to like try and pull him out of the snow, right? But I think like this is a really good way to consider our students, because I think I can get to a point where I'm nervous that the decisions that I'm making, like we have to balance so many different kinds of students all in the same place, right? Some of them are faster, some of them are slower, some of them did not bring the right stuff in their backpack, some of them need a snack. All of them need a snack. They all need a snack all the time. They like, if you have taught anyone, like snack, I need a snack, right? So you're balancing all of those kinds of things, but our students know when they sign up to do the thing that they're going to do with us, that means it's not going to be the same as doing it by themselves. But if they wanted to sing by themselves and have their education specifically tailored towards them, then they would be doing private lessons. They decided to be a part of our community, right? And so in that means they're going to have to share their snacks with someone. They may be out of breath because it's a little faster than they thought. They may be pulling everybody back a little bit. And sometimes they may need to pull us out of the snow, but they're not going to step in the same hole. And they're not going to get to go on the same trail as they would have done if they did it by themselves. And at the end of it, they have a picture with all of the people that they got to accomplish the thing with. And so for me, it changes my perspective about me, because it's like, right, I can't be every woman. It is not all in me. Right? But if I can foster this community within my students, then they are along for this journey together. And what we can do with all of us there is going to end up being more fulfilling to all of us as well. To bring that back to a new teacher, it's like you got to give yourself a little bit of grace. Be as present as you can, be the most authentic version of yourself as you can. And then try to be sure that you surround yourself with people who have the same kind of mindset that you do. It's fine to have friends that are motivated by like academic, musical success. And like, if that's you, then do that thing. But if you're people first, like if you are like community and music is the avenue, and then find the people that are going to help affirm that in you, so that you're not constantly comparing yourself to something that looks different to the path that you're on. This mindset of like, in order for you to notice me, then I have to take the only seat at the table situation, right? We emerge from school and it's a constant competition. And so we have this kind of like scarcity mindset. The reality is there are women that have been in this profession before us who have put those heels on and smashed all of those ceilings so that we could have the opportunity to do the thing and have a conversation about work-life balance. Some of them did not get to have the conversation. Some of them did not have that. They're the ones that like chopped down the tree and put the log there for us to do the crossing across the river. They only got to do one trail, but we get to do both. So thank you to them. But also that means that there may have only been one spot for them. And now we don't even have to sit at the same table. Like, make another one. We don't have to just pull up the chairs. We can have a picnic. Like, so instead of this mindset of like, in order to, to do the thing, then I have to take the only spot. It's like, no, like there are so many students that need to be loved and cared for, and so many classrooms that need like authentic connection and music. We need to help build each other up. Whatever level you are at in this profession, we need to like join up hands and just like come on, so that people have this opportunity as well. Yeah, that's probably what I got.
That was awesome. Oh, Rachel, that was amazing. Some things that really stood out to me were just what you were saying at the end, that no one's path is the same. And so just lean in to your own instincts and try to surround yourself with supportive people. And I loved the metaphor that you were using for the hike, to remind ourselves of, we don't always know all the answers and we never will, and that's okay. And I think what a good reminder that our students also have that grace. And so if we can give ourselves grace and be authentic and show up and be honest, our students are going to give that back. And the more that we can tell them, hey, I'm a human being and I'm here to do my best and definitely made a mistake and that's all right. What a good lesson for them to learn, and what a good reminder for us that we should lean into that feeling, even if it's uncomfortable. So thank you for sharing all of that. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
And now a quick word from our sponsors.
Conductor, 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 conductor.
This season, we are featuring a fierce lineup of women composers found in the Music Spoke marketplace. At Music Spoke, composers receive the majority of the proceeds from sales, retain control over their own works, and all scores are available immediately as digital downloads. At Music Spoke, they do not simply publish pieces of music. They find composers and give them the tools and freedom to promote themselves.
You just heard Perils of Procrastination by Marjorie Halloran. Check out her works today on musicspoke.com and conducther.com/sponsors.
Hello, this is Sandra Snow, Director of Choral Programs at Michigan State University and Artistic Director of Mirabai. Mirabai is partnering with the Denver Women's Chorus to present Storytellers, a workshop unlike any conference you've been to. For the first time, leaders in choral music education will partner with members of GALA, the Gay and Lesbian Association of Choruses, to bring a workshop that blends the experiences of musical activists and classroom trailblazers. The Storytellers Conference is designed to improve your rehearsal and ensemble leadership through sessions that promote inclusive pedagogy, cultural responsiveness, and a new lens through which to view the conductor's role. Featured guests will include composer and singer Moira Smiley, and all attendees will be able to see Mirabai in concert. Session presenters will include collegiate educators from across the country and gala chorus leaders who are working as community activists. When we come together to listen to one another's stories, we all grow. Storytellers. Listen, connect, expand. To register, see storytellersdenver.org.
Hey everyone, Gloria here from Call Time Clothing, back again to remind you to check out our newest special edition items from our collaboration with Conductor. Grab a super soft tee for yourself, a family member, a teacher, or maybe all of the above. We've truly got something for everyone. Head over to Call Time Clothing today.
Hello everyone, Jocelyn Hagan here. I just wanted to let you know that the Compose Like a Girl podcast has officially launched. Listen as I interview celebrated composers Sarah Kirkland Snyder, Chen Yi, Dale Trombor, Angelica Negron, Rina Esmail, and more. I'm also hard at work on the next batch of scores in the Compose Like a Girl choral series, distributed by Graphite Publishing. You can help me bring these new pieces to life. I'm always seeking choral ambassadors to perform these new works by emerging composers. If you're interested, please reach out to me, Jocelyn Hagan, via my website, jocelynhagan.com, or social media. I look forward to hearing from you.
Pavon Publishing is proud to feature outstanding women composers and conductors.
Composer Judith Harrington has created a prolific choral series for youth and treble choirs that includes Fireflies from Japan and Duérmete mi corazón from Brazil.
Shirley McRae has many outstanding arrangements for young choirs, including popular songs like Black Sheep, and Sakura.
Conductor Iris Levine maintains a treble chorus series of medium to advanced works with text by poets from Teasdale to Yeats.
Other composers and authors in the Pavon family circle include Zenaida Stewart-Robles, Catherine Rundis, and Martha Wall. Explore all of these fantastic composers at Pavon Publishing. And we're back.
This next guest is extremely special because I nominated her. So today we are thrilled to hear from Kateri Levacek. Kateri, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, including where you're from, what you teach, and how many years you have been teaching?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so thrilled to be here. Love the podcast, and I can't believe I'm on it. This is awesome. I'm originally from Indiana and grew up there, and then have moved to Texas about 11 years ago for my husband's job. And that has meant my career path has looked a little non-traditional. So I have 17 total years of teaching somebody something in music, and 9 of them are in the classroom. I have done everything from early childhood through elementary. Most of my time is in middle school. I've also taught high school, and I've also taught college. So I've run the whole gamut, and am real excited to be here today. Today I teach middle school in Flower Mound, Texas, and I have a program of 220 students in 6th through 8th grade.
Like the rock star that you are. Just a little bit of background, which is totally tangential, but Kateri and I overlapped for two years at University of North Texas. I was getting my doctorate, and Kateri came back to school for her master's. And I'm just so excited to have this come full circle. It's just super special. So we have to know more because Kateri is brilliant. So we're going to start with the questions. So Kateri, what is your favorite thing about teaching?
Well, the short answer is building relationships with the students and watching them develop new skills and the confidence and joy that comes with them being able to do things that they didn't think they could do before. And I love watching them turn into even more incredible humans than they did at the start of the time I got to know them. And the longer answer, I think, is a little bit more that I enjoy. Um, I love expanding their horizons and showing them how to do things that they didn't think was possible or society told them wasn't possible. Um, and that can range everywhere from, like, I have taught my students to sing over the course of my career in more than 23 languages, which I think is so important because the world is not as big as people try to make it and not as different as people try to make it in some ways. And I think it's really important that we can help our students see that in other cultures and other communities and understanding different ways of life. And so that's really kind of important to me, to be able to broaden their horizons at a time that is really important in their lives. And I think one of my favorite things is after each concert, we do a concert reflection. I force them to write because, got to learn how to write like an adult. And one of the questions I ask them is, the standard, like, what could we do better? What are our goals? What did we do well? Blah, blah, blah. And then I ask, what was your favorite song of the ones we sang and why? And I think one of the most touching things that I've seen is my tenor bass choir of 90% athletes writes almost every time. They're like, at least half the choir's favorite song is the slow, lyrical, mushy gushy one. And they I read things like, I just love, my favorite one was All That Her Heart Desires by Laura Farnell, because I can share what my heart really feels. Or things like, I feel so calm and peaceful inside when I sing it. Or I feel like I can finally express how I'm feeling, and I'm just so proud because that's like one of the very small ways that I can change the world, is by like showing these boys how to feel and how to express themselves in ways that are healthy and just great for their development as people. And I think that it's going to turn them into, like, help them be able to carry that through their lives. And so it's just so cool to watch them feel things they didn't think they could feel before.
So, if you don't already know from the answer that Kateri just said, she's a brilliant music educator. And I think that all the things that you just shared are so important for us to keep in mind. And it's always really healthy. I think we're recording this like right in the new year, even though it'll come out a little bit later. And as we lead into the new year, it's always good to think back and reflect about these favorite moments of teaching, because as we know, we're getting into sort of the trough of the year. Some of the hardest parts for us are upcoming, and these are such beautiful moments to reflect on and to remember what we do every day is life-changing. So digging a little bit deeper, I feel like you started to segue really well into our second question. What are the primary educational philosophies that guide your teaching? And I feel like you've already touched on some of them, which is so cool.
Yeah, I think along with what I was saying, I think everything for me comes down to putting the students first, always, no matter what. And that applies to everything from selecting repertoire to the development of classroom culture to make it a safe place for everyone to be their authentic selves, to individual relationship building with the students. It's so important to me that because middle school is such a tumultuous and vulnerable time for these students, that truly all they want to know is that who they are is okay and lovable as they are. And that's all what they're really seeking in middle school. And they do so in such sometimes ridiculous and inappropriate ways. And I can show them in my room, I can always hold them to a higher standard if they're not, doing the right thing. And I can show them that this is a place where you can be you and you are okay just as you are. And I love you no matter what. And so because students won't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them, there are so many ways that you can foster that like relationship development in ways that make them want to listen to you and want to do what you want. And I mean, I don't, I think I get a lot of my compliance because they want to do what I ask, because they know that I don't ask them to do things that aren't good for them, you know? And I say, you know, you can do hard things. And they're like, but it's hard. I'm like, right, you can do the hard thing. And becoming like, it's kind of like in a marriage where you want to be on the same team, you and your partner against the problem, not you against your partner. It's the same idea where you get to be their leader. You get to be their guide, that you get to be the person that like has all the keys that open all these amazing doors into music and understanding and achieving and learning and growing. And like you get to lead them. And so when you use verbiage like we and let's try, blah, 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 you know, how can we listen across the choir and really unify our ah vowel? Instead of, I heard you all saying 30 different ahs, you know, you have to, you know, that's not going to inspire anyone to want to do it. Like, I don't want to do what a grown up says. Are you kidding? You know, I balk against that, you know, being told what to do. But if I make it into a team where I say, oh, guys, that was so awesome. All we need to do now is really work on that one ah in the middle of a word. Then like they're like, oh yeah, we got it, you know, and then they're trying really hard and they encourage each other and it's a safe place to fail. So I think putting them first is super important, and building a community in your room where they can be who they are. I use a lot of restorative practices in my room that can help build that community. I try to be really welcoming and encouraging and have them have a place where they know they can go if they need a place that is going to listen to them and be there for them and hold them to a high standard and push them to be the best version of themselves. And it all comes down to best, you know, the best thing I can give the students is myself and the time and the care and the desire to help them get better and to know that I care about them. And then the rest just falls into place.
Oh man, I'm not going to cry at our podcast. That was beautifully said. And I've seen all of these things in practice, which I think is what's so extra special. And then also seeing these practices develop over time and become more solidified and feel even more, I think, you know, things that maybe we knew, like going into school already, but then becoming such a part of an organic practice that I was able to actually go to Kateri's middle school spring choir concert last year and see the students and how they responded to Kateri. And it was really evident that the people first approach, which is something I think a lot of us talk about and want to implement, but it can be challenging to actually do that day after day. And it was really fabulous to see this all coming together, and the development of that intrinsic motivation in the students to want to do well, not only because they want to please Miss Levacek, but because they want to do well for each other. And I think that that is something really evident, at least that I got to see in your teaching.
Thank you.
One of the questions that we've had a couple people answer, and I think maybe my favorite on the list, is what is one piece of advice you have for teachers in their first year in the classroom? A challenging year, we know.
Well, I have to cheat because I can't just give one piece of advice because there's a lot. Teaching is hard. Your first year teaching is so hard. And it's hard even when you are a veteran teacher going into a new building. So even though I have all of these skills, last year was the first year in my building that I was at. And there are so many challenges. Like, who do you submit a PO to? Who, like, you know, the timeline, the people, all of that's really hard. So I'm going to cheat and give more than one piece of advice, but I'll try to make them succinct. Number one, there's always too much work. You can never get it all done. So at some point, you just have to leave and know that it will be okay, and know that it will still be there for you tomorrow, and it'll still be there the next day, and it'll still be there next week. And so kind of prioritizing what absolutely must get done, and then making the rest of it about the kids as best you can is, I think, really important. And trying to find ways to connect with them, especially like we have an interesting situation in music in that a lot of kids join the program a lot of the time for the teacher, or they stay in the program for the teacher. And you'll get some kids that, want to sing and singing is their life. And like they can't imagine singing. They'll be there no matter who the teacher is. You get a lot of kids that are in there for their friends. And then you get a lot of kids that are there for director loyalty. So that first year when you are coming in as an interloper and an outsider into their program, I think it's so important not to take it personally. I was terrible at this my first year of teaching. It did not occur to me that they wouldn't know that their teacher had left. It did not occur to me that they wouldn't instantly love me for like who I am and the things I bring. I was so caught off guard by the fact that they had such loyalty to this previous director, and I didn't handle it well. And so I just encourage you that the person who is your predecessor, as much as you can make them an ally, as much as you can show that to your students that you love them too, as much as you can say, hey, tell me your favorite things that you did last year. What's important to you this year? What traditions do you have that you want to uphold? What traditions do you want to start? Like, have you, like, you're eighth graders now, or you're seniors now, or whatever. And instead of having to fight against those kids with the residual, try to be finding ways to make them, articulate to you what are the things that you love, and that you can, it's an and. You don't have to pick me or the person. It can be an and. You can love them and you can also love me, or you can work for them really hard and you can also learn different things from me. And that's how amazing. You've got two inputs to your, music education. We all have different strengths. And so I can't wait to share with you my strengths. Please tell me the things that you loved from the previous teacher. And I was not in a place in my first year of teaching where I had horrible imposter syndrome, right? Like that's totally normal. And I was so scared that I would be found out as someone who didn't know what they knew, what they were talking about. And instead, I think if you can go in with the humility of, hey, I'm learning, but I want to make this an outstanding experience for you. Tell me what it is that you want to see. And I'm so, like, sometimes you have to help them through the mourning process of, man, it is really hard. I'm so sorry that they left and you thought you'd have them for your eighth grade, your senior year, whatever. How impactful they were. Oh, that's amazing. I can't wait. Can you tell me something about them? What was, finding ways to help them kind of grieve, because they don't know how to do that. Help them grieve and then help them move through and see that there is a new path that we can forge together and make it the experience you want, it to be. And I have other things that I can bring to the table too. I can't wait to share with you the fun things I know, And so sometimes there's overlap, sometimes there's not. And it honestly doesn't matter whether the person was revered, well-known, award-winning educator or whether it was some guy who phoned it in. There's always loyalty. And so just knowing that it's not about you is going to be helpful. Also, do your job and work really hard. Another piece of advice I have is call the parents. I know you don't want to. I know they're terrifying. I know they're older than you. It's scary. My very first choir concert of the year, of my very first year of teaching, I was so terrified of the parents because I had gotten an angry phone call that day that I went and hid backstage after the concert was over until everybody left. Don't do that. Don't do that. The parents, truly, I'm a parent. I have an eighth grader. I just want to tell you, I want to know that my kids' teachers care about them. And if you show to the parents that you care about their kid and that you want to work together as a team to help their kid turn into the best version of themselves that they can be, you'll get really great results. Just yesterday I had to make 3 parent phone calls for behavior issues in my class. And what my little tip is after I make the ones I really don't want to make, I find a great kid and I call their parent and I say, hey, I just want to tell you thank you because your kid is outstanding. And I list all the things that they are doing so well and what a joy they are to have in my classroom. And then I can leave school on a good note and I don't have to think about like the angry phone calls I had to make, and I try to do it in a positive way, but find a way to connect with the parents early, especially with your kids that are going to be the ones you can see right away are like, oh boy, make a phone call early, try to catch them being good. If you can get the parents onto your side, man, your life will be so much easier. Don't be scared. Parents really do want their kid to be great. And if you approach it well, you can get even like the most resistant parent to want to work with you to help their kid.
There were so many pieces of advice that you just put out there. I was taking notes as you were talking, just that I think beyond first year teachers, this is such a good reminder for veteran teachers as well. Doing some self-reflecting, it is always hard for me to think about the amount of work that is yet to be done. And I feel like it's really only in the past year or two that I have really finally come to terms with the fact that it cannot all get done, and that is okay. But the prioritization of the things that must get done, I'm going to try and take that into the new semester, Kateri. And even in the collegiate scope, go.
Oh, I'm just gonna say, I feel like my to-do list is like a CVS receipt. I went in there to buy Band-Aids, and then I tried to get one thing accomplished, and all of a sudden it's like the list is taller than I am. And man, it's so hard. It's really hard. And if there may be some workaholic inclinations that I possess, and maybe is familiar as well to you. It's a good reminder to both of us that, it really it's not possible. It's not a reasonable amount of workload. And the whole teaching profession in general is built on unpaid teacher labor. And so I'm trying hard to reduce the amount that I allow that to be true. Now, I can't eliminate it completely, and I'm terrible at work-life balance in general, but I am trying to do less of the... It's just not possible, though. I have not figured out the secret.
Well, I don't think there's one secret, but I think these tips and thoughts for us to reflect on, and whether it's beginning of new semester or ending a year and thinking about maybe some goals and initiatives for the following year for work-life balance. When I was teaching in the public schools, my most successful year was the year that I took my email off of my phone, and I had to make that conscious choice to go into the inbox. And so whether it's just one small thing, we are here to support, and don't be afraid to reach out to another person across your district, or pick up the phone call somebody from your undergrad or your master's, or just a friend across the way, and know that somebody's out there that wants to listen to you and help you and support you.
100%. So, find your community of people, because it's so hard.
It is. And I'm just super grateful. Kateri, we are so thrilled that you were able to join us today on Conduct Her. And friends, if you have an amazing educator out there, please submit their name. You can find us at www.conducther.com. Go ahead and submit those names to us, because we would love to get more fabulous K-12 educators on our show. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening. This has been Conduct Her. This episode was engineered and mixed by Mary Hannah Klontz, with intro and outro music by Jonathan Martin and ad music by Kate Krellin.
Discover more resources at conducther.com.